This is Gemara in Kesubos Daf Yud Gimel, and we pulled up yesterday in the bottom of Yud Beis and Mid Beis. On the very bottom, we were in the middle of discussing whether there's this taina of a migu or not, and we said we'll pick it up today and discuss from there. So in order to get into there, we have to go and zoom out a little bit, and we have to take a little bit of a bird's eye view into that which we learned in the second half of yesterday's shir. Those who are looking at your screen, you'll see highlighted in front of you a case in the Mishnah, two cases in the Gemara, and the Kash from yesterday. And basically in the Mishnah, we have to know this because this is going to be a theme that's going to follow with us. We have a machlekes Rav Gamliel and Rav Yeshua, and the machlekes is Rav Gamliel says she is believed, we go with the taina of bari, and Rav Yeshua says she is not believed, we go with the chazaka. The case of the Mishnah was the classical Kesubos type of case. One marries a woman, doesn't find besulim. She says, Misha erestani ne'anasti. She says, someone was ma'anis me, someone raped me after the erisin. Rav Gamliel says, she is believed. She's a bari, she knows. Rav Yeshua says, no. He, the husband, has the chazaka, he has the cash, so he is believed. Case number one. Now the Gemara said a similar case. Someone says, you owe me $100. Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna says, if someone says, I do not know, any idea, he's a shema. So the guy who asked for the $100 is a bari. The bari wins. Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna hold chayiv. And now, of course, everyone who is thinking, seemingly it works out very well. The Rav Yehuda and Rav Huna holds like whom? Rav Gamliel in the Mishnah, that the bari is going to work. Rav Nachman and Rav Yochanan say no. Potter. Why Potter? Because again, chazaka. You're trying to take money away from me. I have the money in my pocket. I keep it. That is seemingly like Rav Yeshua. So now if you see towards the bottom of the Amid, 6 lines to the bottom, the Gemara asks, like we just spoke out, Lema Rav Yehuda v'Rav Huna, that said in the case of Mani Li Biyadcha, that one is Chayev, we go with the taina of Bari, the taina of the claim of certainty goes like Rav Gamliel, Damir Rav Gamliel in the Mishnah, that she is believed because she says with certainty it was Misheres Tani Nenasti. She says someone raped me after Irisin. For Rav Nachman, Rav Yochanan, Damir Rav Yeshua. Answers the Gemara, and this is really where we left off, Rav Nachman, Anad, Amri, Afilik Rav Gamliel. Rav Nachman says, even though I normally go with the chazaka, but in the Mishnah I could go with Rav Gamliel that she is believed. Why? If we go with chazaka, then she's not believed. You know why? Adkan the Kamer Rav Gamliel Hasam in the Mishnah, Rav Gamliel says she's believed. You know why? El Deika Migu, because she has a Migu. Let's look at Rashi. Rashi El Deika Migu. Rashi explains. What did she say? She said Misharastani Nenasti. When she says Misharastani Nenasti, you know what happens? She is now possible to marry a Kayin because someone had relations with her. It's true, was forceful, true, she did not want it. She still usher to a Kayin. She could have said something better. Migu always means I could have said something better. What could she have said better? She could have said Mukas Eitzani. It would have been the same result that she doesn't have her Basulim. But she could have said it was not via an act of intercourse with another man, not through a Tashmish, but rather it was through another instrument, through a piece of wood. If it was through a piece of wood, then she would be kosher to Kayin. So the reason in the Mishnah that Rav Gamliel says she is believed, you know why? Because she has a good old-fashioned quintessential migu. She could have said something better. Whenever you could say something better and you don't, that means you have an amanus of believability to that which you said, and that is the reason why Rav Nachman says I can even hold like Rav Gamliel. My migu, there's no migu. Inami arkam lo kamer Rav Gamliel hasam, 2 lines to the bottom. Another reason why Rav Gamliel says she's believed, you know why? Because she has her chazaka. You know why? Because Rav Gamliel says that she had a cheskas besula. She is a singular girl. We assume that she never had relations. So that's another reason why the ball's in her court, that she has more of a believability, because she has a chazaka that she was a besula. But in this case, there is no chazaka allowing you to collect the money in the case of manali biyadcha lahai. Says the Gemara in the last line of you give Beizam and Beiz Achanam Mistavra, that which we just said is wonderfully logical to the Kamashani Rav Nachmanu, Damer Rav Gamliel. It works out beautifully that what was the terrors that we just said? The Rav Nachman says he could even hold like Rav Gamliel. Why? Because in the Mishnah there's a believability, because of the reason of a miku, you could have said something better. But in general, Rav Nachman says you go with the chazaka. You do not go with the taina of why? Because now we have a stira. The kaim like Rav Nachman. Usually we pass like Rav Nachman bedini in monetary disputes. And over here we know in the Mishnah that we go with Rav Gamliel that she's believed. But that, in the Gemara's original thought, was at odds with each other. If we go with Rav Gamliel that she's believed, that means we're going with the Taina of Bari. So then, Rav Nachman, you say that no. When I say Manali Biyadcha, you owe me $100. Rav Nachman said you're Pati, you go with Chazaka. How could that be? Elalav Shmamina Rashid and Shmamina. Therefore, says the Gemara fits out wonderfully. We're past like Rav Nachman. And we pass like Rav Gamliel, everything is good and dandy. It says the Mishnah, continuing on literally the exact same theme that we were just speaking about, this machlokes of Gamliel and Rav Yeshua, whether she is believed or not. Says the Mishnah, a very similar case, a case that they were together and they didn't find dam besulim. So what happens? The wife says mukas eitzani. The wife says what happened was it was an act of an instrument. It was not an act that was done with another man. Of course, as we just learned a moment ago, now she's kosher likahuna. And the husband says, "Loi, no." Loiki Elajur says, "Ishat." There was someone that had relations with you, and as Rashi points out, Kaidim Sharasticha, which we have to see what that means. He's claiming that at the time that we got married, you already were a Ba'ula. So what's his claim in a simple words? He's saying, "I don't owe you anything." Mekach Tayis. He's waving that Mekach Tayis card. He's saying, "You were a Ba'ula, not a Basula. I don't have to pay you anything." Rav Gamliel, Rav Elazar, Ayman Amenes, she is believed. Rav Yeshua, Ayman Lamipino Chaim, she is not believed. We assume that there was someone who slept with her unless she has a proof. So again, a very similar machlokes of Gamliel and Rabbi Yeshua, whether she is believed. Says the Gemara, Tanasayu b'mai. Now we're going to go a bit deeper into the Mishnah. What are the two tainas? She's saying mukas eitz. He is saying jusas ish. What exactly are the claims? What is the kala? What is she saying you owe me? And what is he saying I do not? Says the Gemara machlokes Rav Yochanan Rav Asayim b'mana v'Elazar b'mana v'leiklam. Says the Gemara, Rav Yochanan says, you know what they're debating about? She says you owe me a good old fashioned 200, a full ksuba. Why? Because it was a mukas eitz. And whereas he is counter-timing, no. He is counter-claiming, no. I only owe you a mana. Why do I owe you a mana? Because when we got married, you were a ba'ula. It was a regular ksuba of a ba'ula, so I owe you 100. That's how Rav Yochanan learns. Rav Elazar says, no. B'mana v'loi klum. She's saying, you owe me 100. I was a ba'ula. He's saying, I don't owe you anything. Mekach Tayis. Explains the Gemara like we just said. Rav Yochanan saying, b'mana savar l'kira meir. As we learned a few days ago, Rameir says whether you know that she is a mukas eitz or not, still she gets her full ksuba. So Rav Yochanan is learning that in the Mishnah when she says I am a mukas eitz, that means I'm kosher, not kosher, I'm full. It's true I don't have dam b'sulim, but it was nothing to my fault, and therefore I still get a ksuba of 200 within the opinion of Rameir. Bein ikrba, bein lo ikrba, whether you know or not, you still owe her 200. For Rav Elazar, no, they're fighting between 100 and nothing. Why? So like Rabbanan. The Amri ben Hikar Balilokir Mana. The Rabbanan know that when you say mukas eitz, the most you're going to get is a mana. So therefore, she's saying mana, I get 100, and he's saying nothing. So what is the fight over here? Is the fight that she says you owe me 200 and he says I owe you 100, or is the fight that she says you owe me 100 and he says I owe you nothing? Explains the Gemara a bit deeper. I understand why Rav Elazar says 100 or nothing does not hold like Rav Yochanan. Why not? It's called muki like Rabbanan. Givaldik. Whenever we have a choice, who do we want to establish a mission like? It's better to go with Rabbanan versus Rameir. So Rav Elazar says, my explanation goes with the Rabbanan. It's beautiful. But you, Rav Yochanan, my Rav Elazar, why don't you listen like Rav Elazar? Why are you, Rav Yochanan, explaining the Mishnah according to Das Yachid, according to the opinion only of Rav Meir? Answers the Gemara, you know why? Because Rav Yochanan holds ostensibly that if someone gets married on the premise they're basula and they're found to be a ba'ula, you cannot say mekach tayis. You can't say I owe you nothing. The end of the day is it means I was a ba'ula, but you still owe me 100. So therefore, hacha hu ka'amar mana, v'ika'amar mana, mahika bein taina didela taina dida. Meaning, since Rav Yochanan holds that any time someone says, I we thought she was a basula and she's a ba'ula, you still get something. So he's forced to say that what is she claiming? Not 100, but 200. Because she's claiming 100 and he's saying 100, there's no fight in the Mishnah. There's a fight, there's a disagreement. So it must be that if he's saying, I'll give you 100, because I thought you were a basula, you ended up being a ba'ula, which we know we go that you get 100, must be what was she claiming? She was claiming a full 200. That is the reason why Rav Yochanan is forced to explain that the Mishnah is going with the opinion of Rav Meir that says, bein hikra, bein lo hikra, you get 200. So now the Gemara flips it. It makes sense there are two cases in the Mishnah. Rami bar Chama, Chad lafugim Rav Chia bar Avin, Amar Rav Sheshes, Elo Rav Yochanan Tarti Lamali. According to Rav Yochanan, what is the reason why we have two different cases in the Mishnah? Again, let's see a little bit of Rashi. Rashi's going to fill in the missing details over here. Bishlam Rav Elazar, look at Rashi. Damar Jew says, Ish, Ein Laklom. Rav Elazar says, you get nothing. Therefore, there are two cases. It makes a lot of sense. Why? Because Mishar is Tani Nenasti, Vyomer Mukas Eitani. Because one of the cases coming to say, not like Midrami Archama. It says Rashi, He Oimeres Mishar is Tani Nenasti, Tana Lemisni Ba. V'haya mekach atai mechi mekach taisli gamri mashma. Vein look, you get nothing. Lafukim midrav Chia bar Avin that said previously, because he's saying, no way, I don't know you a mana, I owe you 0. Mekach tais. V'tani hi oimer es mukas eitani lafukim Rav Chama. That's one chiddush, and the other chiddush is not like Rav Chama that said mukas eis you get bein hikra bein lo hikra divrei kov lo klum. So it makes sense according to Rav Elazar why we're saying two different cases in the Mishnah, but according to Rav Yochanan, what are the two cases teaching us? Explains the Gemara. Chad aladia koichad Rav Gamliel, v'chad aladia koichad Rav Yeshua. Now the Gemara explains, Kamaisam. The first Mishnah comes to tell you Ladia Koichad Rav Yeshua, comes to tell you the Chiddush of Rav Yeshua. That's the previous Mishnah that we started off with today. Tafal Gav Dikal Meimar Migu Lemehemda. Meaning now we're going a full circle. We start off today explaining the Chiddush of our Mishnah that she has believability. Why? Because she has a Migu. In the previous Mishnah she said Merishtanin and Nasti, but she could have said Mukas Eitz. So now there's a massive Chiddush brewing in that Mishnah that we didn't mention. Is Rav Yeshua says she's not believed, even though she has a migu. And Batsraisa, the second Mishnah teaches a chiddush adiyah kochad Rav Gamliel, tavgav delekla meimer migu. She still has a believability, and that is the reason why we need two different Mishnayos. And now the Mishnah continues towards the bottom of Yigilum and Aleph with another machlekes of Gamliel Rav Yeshua. Ruah midaberes im echad v'amru la ma'ativa shel zeh. You see someone quote unquote midaberes talking with another person. The Gemara is going to explain exactly what that means, and they ask this woman, what is the nature of that man you were talking to? And she responds, "There's plenty of a kainu. It's so and so, and he's a kain." Machlekes like we've seen till now. Rav Gamliel, Rav Elazar, and she's not believed. We assume that she had relations to whom? Someone who is not kosher to be in Klal Yisrael. Until she brings a proof that indeed her Bia was with someone that was kosher. Case number 1 of the Mishnah, that she was quote unquote talking with a man. Case number 2, a woman is sitting there pregnant. We had this yesterday, 2 days ago. We ask her, what's the status of the fetus that you're carrying? And she says, a similar response. So 2 different cases in which we see a woman either had relations and that she's pregnant, or we are assuming that she had relations and we're trying to figure out what is the nature of that relationship. She is claiming everything was fine. It's true, maybe they weren't married, but at least the man was a kosher. And the question is, does she have a believability? Says Rav Gamliel and Rav Elazar, or says Rav Yeshua, no, we do not believe her. Says the Gemara, first of all, my midaberes. What do the Mishnah mean midaberes? Machlekes. Ziri amar nistra, Avasi amar nivala. Machlekes, what exactly do we see her doing with this man? Ziri said, we see her in seclusion with the man, and Ravasi says we see them actually having relations. Explains the Gemara. I understand the word midaberes. They were just talking. They were secluded together. El Ravasi, my midaberes. Lishna ma'alya, says Gemara. It's a beautiful asha, and we talk nicely. as we tell our children, the pasuk says that they ate. She eats and she wipes away her mouth, and she says, I didn't do any wrong. And this pasuk is referring to a woman who has illicit relations, and she wipes away her mouth, referring to her mouth on the bottom. But we see that the Lishna Mali always want to talk beautifully, so the Gemara says, Mishnah says midaberes, even though there was real an act of zinos. Says the Gemara further, Bishlamal is the iri on the last narrow line. I understand that there were two cases according to Zeiri who holds that the Mishnah is referring to a case of seclusion. Midaberes umeuberes, two different cases, which is one case is seclusion and one case is she's actually pregnant. El Ravasi, that we see her having relations. Tarti lamali, what's the chiddush? She had relations and then she's pregnant. It's the same case. Explains the Gemara in the first wide line. One case is about her, the ratio is about what's her status. She says I can marry a kohen, and the sefer is talking about the child's status. She's claiming that the child can marry a kohen. Explains the Gemara further. According to the one that explains that the one Rav Gamliel that says that she's kosher, she's believed, that it filters down that the child's believed as well. According to Mandam that says she's kosher, but her daughter, her son is not kosher. Michael Meimar explains the Gemara. Ravasi, who holds that you see them actually having relations, holds like that man the Amar. Says the Gemara, 3 lines to the bottom, Akasha on Zeiri that says that they saw them having seclusion. According to Zeiri, what was visualized, what was seen, man and woman going into seclusion. She is not believed. Ask the Gemara, Rav has taught us, Rav said that we give Malkos when we see someone in seclusion, but we don't say that they're aser. Lema, the like Rav Yeshua, are we going to say that the Rav is going not like Rav Yeshua? Because Rav Yeshua says in the Mishnah, she is not believed, meaning that she is aser. Rav said that seclusion itself cannot make her aser, and Rav Yeshua seemingly says seclusion could make her aser. So Rav's statement seemingly does not fit with Rav Yeshua in our Mishnah. Explains the Gemara on the last line of Gimel Amar Aleph, Afilotemer Rav Yeshua. Rav can even fit with Rav Yeshua. Malu Asabi Yochsin. It's a special chumrah in our Mishnah. It's true we don't generally make someone aser via an act of yichud and seclusion. In our Mishnah, we're being more machner, a special maila, special stringency for yichsin, for genealogical matters with regard to kayhanim. We're a bit more machmir. Says the Gemara. Let's ask now the other way on Rav Asi. Meishay asked the Gemara, Rosh Nechlesu Machleseser. We see someone that enters into a private place, into seclusion with a man, or you see them going into a desolate ruin, and afterwards you ask her, who is this man? And she responds, he's a Kayin, or the son of my father's brother. The exact same achlaikis. Rav Gamliel says she's believed that he's a kosher. Rav Yeshua says no way. Explains the Gemara. According to Zeiri, that says the word midaberes in our Mishnah means nister. They were secluded. I understand why we had our Mishnah, why we have this brisa. That why in this brisa we have two places, l'seiser or l'chorba, two different types, two different levels of seclusion. According to Ravasi, that you see an actual act of tashmish. What does it? Why do we need two different cases and saying the exact same thing? Explains the Gemara 7 lines down. You give them a vase chada. Katani, it's true, it's really only one case. You got to get rid of the word ay, l'seiser dichorba. It means seclusion into the ruins. But ask the Gemara of l'seiser ay l'chorba Katani. What happened to the word ay? It's there in the Braisa. Explains the Gemara, chada l'chorba de masa, v'chada l'chorba de dibra. Two different types of ruins. One is a ruin de dibra on the field. That's the first case in the Braisa. The second case is a ruin in the chorva. One is in the Masa in the city, and one is the Dibra on the field. Utzrichan is a chiddush into each. The Ashmin and Chorva the Masa rune in the city. I would have thought, Masha Rav Gamliel. That's when Rav Gamliel says that she is believed in kosher misham the Rav Kishayim Etzla. Because if you're in the city, everyone's kosher over there. Aval Chorva the Dibra on the field, the Rav Psulam Etzla. That most people that are there are going to be basal. Ema Maitile the Rav Yeshua and Mitzvah Rav Yeshua. V'yesh man and Ba'hi. If you only said the case of the field, I would have thought, but you come Rav Yeshua. that's when Yeshua says she is not believed because most are not kosher in the field. Avul Baha in the city among the Rav Gamliel. Therefore, Sricha, we need both cases in the Mishnah. So far we've had a question on Zeiri on seclusion. We answered it. A question on Rav Asi on Tashmish, and we answered it. And the Gemara continues about 12 lines down. You give them a base. First one line is Sricha Meisvei. Another kasha on Rav Asi. Zu Eida Sheisha Kesheira Law says the Brisa. This is the witnesses. This is the testimony that a woman herself could give. Rav Yeshua Yeshua says she's not believed. So says the Gemara. Amar lahem Rav Yeshua. Iatem moidim. Rav Yeshua says, do you not agree? B'shvuya shenishvis, a woman that was captured. V'yeshla edim shenishvis, and we have witnesses. They're edim saying she was captured. And yet, after all of that, v'yomer ta'irani, she says, I am tar. Shenon emenes. Do you really think that she's not believed? And she's not going to marry a Kain? Amrullah, they responded, Avil. Yeah, I actually believe that. Says Mara, 1 second. What is the difference between these two cases? Why, when the woman just has regular yichud, she is believed, but when the woman is a captive, she's not believed? What's the difference? They're both just case of yichud. Why in one is she yes believed and one not? Answers the Gemara, Luzu yesh edim, Luzu ain't edim. You know why? Because when the case of when the woman went into captivity, there were edim that what? That she was mizana. In the other case, when she was just secluded, there were no edim. Amr lahem, so Yeshua responds, Av Luzu yesh edim. What do you mean? In our Mishnah, there was also a case of edim. Shrei case of ain't she now? Her stomach's between her teeth, meaning we know for sure she had relations, she's pregnant. Amrullah, they replied, no. That's why, because she was captured by Goyim, and we assume that most Goyim are Prutzim Ba'arayis. Amr Lahem, you responded, no way, in Abachas Ta'arayis, there's no Abachabas Ta'arayis. So that's the Brisa, and now we have to go and we're going to dissect this Brisa piece by piece and understand exactly what was the conversation here between Rav Gamliel and Rav Elazar, which will eventually shed light into exactly what the Machlekes is. Says the Gemara, Bamed Dvar Mamurim. What are we talking about in this brisa? Be'edus Isha Begufa. We're discussing Edus Isha, a woman's testimony about Begufa, about her status, about herself. Aval Edus Isha Bebita. The brisa only honed in on her. What about on the kid? Divrei Akol Vlad Shtuki. Everyone agrees the Vlad is a Shtuki. Shtuki from the wording of Bi Shatok, to be quiet. Everyone agrees the kid does not know where her father is, and the kid's not going to be kosher. Ask the Gemara, Maika Amar Leho, Maika Mahadrule. What exactly happened in the Raisa? What was the conversation between Rav Gamliel and Rav Yeshua? Explains the Gemara. This is what happened. He shavtani al mu'beres, matishen al midaberes. He said as follows: you answered with regard to mu'beres, the case where she is pregnant. What about the case where they just were found to be speaking? And Amr lahem midaberes hainu shvuya. That is the case of captivity. Amr la, why? How can you bring me a proof from the case of shvuya? There, everyone's goyim. In the regular case of midaberes, in our Mishnah, not everyone in the whole world is Goyim. Amar lahem hanami, no, kivan de istitar ein apachabas arayis. You're right, it might not be right Goyim, but once you go into a situation of seclusion, then there's no apachabas, there's no one that could say, there's no guarantee against forbidden relationships. Such an important rule. The Gemara is saying that if there's going to be yichud, you can't talk anymore. What do you mean? They're Jews. Doesn't make a difference. If you're going to be in a situation of temptation, we assume, unfortunately, that there's going to end up being a sin. Now we go back after explaining this brisa length. We tie it all together, asking a kasha and Ravasi. Ketani mios. What do we see? Tarti. We see two different cases. Midaberes umeuberes. A case where they were talking, and a case where they are pregnant. Tiyofta de Ravasi tiyofta, and therefore that is a kasha on Ravasi. Again, Zeiri said seclusion. Ravasi said tashmish. From the brisa that we see that there's two distinct cases, midaberes and meuberes. Clearly, midaberes does not mean that the actual word mazana, like Ravasi said. Says the Gemara, you are correct. Tiyofta is indeed a kash on Ravasi, and the Gemara is concluding like Zeiri that the word midaberes means seclusion. But now we didn't finish a little more on this price of a tebrik lay. Doesn't write Pesulam Esla. But ask the Gemara 1 second. Maybe the reason is that in the case of captivity, everyone is pasul. But over here, when we see the woman midaberes, why don't we say that Roiv of the people in the world are Jewish, or Roiv of the people around her, I should say, are Jewish, therefore she should have the status that she's kosher likahuna. Explains the Gemara, Mesaylei Rishua ben Levi, the Saraya. Ta'amar Rav Yeshua ben Levi, the Divrei HaMachshar, Machshar afilu b'Roiv Psulin, Divrei HaPoisel, Poisel afilu b'Roiv Ksherim. That in the case that we're saying she's Basal, it's even Roiv Ksherim, even though most people around her would continue her permissibility to kahuna, still we're saying she is forbidden. Amar Rav Yochanan the Divrei HaMachshar b'Machshar b'Bita, Divrei HaPoisel b'Poisel b'Bita. But Rav Elazar Omer the Divrei HaMachshar b'Poisel b'Bita. Amar Rabba, my time with Rav Elazar. Where does Rav Elazar say that she is believed but not with regard to her child? So full circle, like we start off today's shir. She has a chazaka, we assume that she's a kshira. But Bita, let's say her daughter has no chazaka at all. What do we say is only reflecting the edus of a woman onto herself? My love. Shtuki, you apostle. We think the word shtuki means dog, be quiet. You don't know your father are, so you are apostle, this child. Answer Gemara, lo shtuki v'kasher. So what? To me, shtuki v'kasher, does such a thing exist? In Kiddush Shmuel, Damar Shmuel, Asara Kohanim, Oimdim Abiyash Echem Hem Ubal. 10 Kohanim are standing there, and one of them went into seclusion with a woman and had relations. Havalad shtuki. The child that comes out is a shtuki. We do not know who his father is. My shtuki. He doesn't know who his father is. Of course he doesn't inherit his father. We do not allow the child to have a din of a kohen. It's only a kid that knows who his yichazin, knows who his father is. Oh, but this one does not know what his father is. So even though we know he gave him a kohen, a massive chiddush, he's going to be kosher likuna. But even though he's going to be kosher likuna, still, we're mishtaken oisay medin kuna because he does not know who his father is, and he does not fit into mishazaroy miyuchas acharav. As Rashi, second to last, Rashi points out, he won't be able to do the avodah, he won't be able to eat truma, and we'll pick up from here in the next year. B'siyata dishmaya.